He thought it was just another business trip, another harmless night away from home. But when Jake Carter came back from the Ritz-Carlton after a night with his mistress, he didn't find his wife waiting. He found her wedding ring on his pillow and a goodbye note. His pregnant wife was gone. His life about to unravel. What happened next wasn't just betrayal, it was revenge, redemption, and ruin. A wife pushed to the edge, a husband losing everything, and a mistress with a secret darker than anyone imagined. Stay till the end, because justice, when it comes, will leave you breathless. If this story grips you, like, comment, share, and hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens when lies come full circle. The morning sun cut through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Ritz-Carlton penthouse with an almost accusatory brightness. Jake Carter woke slowly, his head pounding from too much champagne, his mouth dry as desert sand. For a moment, he could not remember where he was. Then he saw the blonde hair spread across the pillow beside him, and everything came rushing back. Sienna Brooks, 29 years old, beautiful, in that calculated way that came from knowing exactly what men wanted to see. She was still asleep, her breathing slow and even, one bare shoulder exposed above the silk sheets. Empty champagne bottles littered the marble countertop. Two crystal glasses sat abandoned on the nightstand, lipstick staining one rim. Jake's phone lay on the bedside table, screen dark. He reached for it, squinting against the brightness when it came to life. 6:47 in the morning. 47 missed calls from Emily Hart. 32 text messages. 21 voicemails. He swiped through them quickly, not reading the texts, not listening to the voicemails. They would all say the same thing. "Where are you? Are you okay? Please call me. Happy anniversary. I love you." Jake felt a familiar twist of guilt in his stomach, but it faded quickly. It always did. Emily would understand. She always understood. That was what she did. She forgave him, made excuses for him, waited for him to come home. 6 years of marriage had taught him that much. He silenced his phone and got dressed quietly, trying not to wake Sienna. She stirred as he buttoned his shirt, opening one eye. "Leaving already?" Her voice was husky from sleep and cigarettes. "I have to get home. Emily will be waiting." Sienna stretched like a cat, deliberately letting the sheet slip lower. Will she? Or will she just accept whatever excuse you give her like she always does? Jake froze, one arm in his jacket sleeve. "What is that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, baby." Sienna smiled, but there was something cold in it. "Go home to your wife. I will see you next week." Jake finished dressing and left without another word. In the elevator, he practiced his excuse. Emergency acquisition meeting. Client crisis in San Francisco. The words came easily now, after 6 months of practice. He had told so many lies that they felt more real than the truth. The drive from downtown Los Angeles to Pasadena took 45 minutes in morning traffic. Jake used the time to construct his story, adding details that would make it believable. He would say there had been complications with the Martinez account. He would say his phone had died. He would say he was sorry he missed their anniversary dinner. But these things happened in business. Emily would forgive him. She always forgave him. He pulled into the driveway of their house at 6:58 in the morning. The Spanish-style mansion looked peaceful in the early light, bougainvillea blooming pink and purple against white stucco walls. Jake had bought this house 5 years ago, back when his real estate development company was taking off, back when he thought he could have it all. He used the side entrance, hoping to slip in unnoticed. Maybe Emily was still asleep. Maybe he could shower, change clothes, erase the evidence of where he had been. Maybe she would never know. But the house felt wrong the moment he stepped inside. Too quiet, too still. The air had a waiting quality, like the pause before thunder. Jake climbed the stairs slowly, rehearsing his apology. He would be contrite but not too guilty, apologetic but not suspicious. He had this down to a science now. He pushed open the bedroom door, expecting to find Emily asleep, her pregnant belly rising and falling with each breath. At 8 months along, she slept poorly, waking every few hours to use the bathroom or adjust her position. He expected to find her tangled in sheets, her honey-colored hair spread across the pillow. Instead, he found the bed perfectly made. Hospital corners, smooth white sheets without a wrinkle, the decorative pillows arranged just so, and on his pillow, catching the morning light like an accusation, sat Emily's gold wedding band. Jake's breath caught in his chest. He crossed the room in 3 strides, picking up the ring with shaking hands. It was still warm, as if she had only just removed it. Beside it lay a white envelope with his name written in Emily's careful handwriting. The letters were even and controlled, no evidence of tears or anger. Just his name, Jake. He tore open the envelope, hands trembling so badly he almost dropped it. The letter inside was written on their good stationery, the kind Emily kept in her desk for thank you notes and special occasions, the kind she used when she wanted something to be permanent. Jake, the letter began, this is the last time I wait for you. The words hit him like a physical blow. He sank onto the edge of the bed, reading with growing horror. I know about the late meetings that smell like Chanel No. 5. I know about the hotel receipts. I know about her. I have known for 3 months. I am done making excuses for you. Harper and I are gone. Do not look for us. My lawyer will contact you. Emily. Jake read it 3 times, certain he must be misunderstanding. Emily could not have left. Not his Emily. Not the woman who had stood by him through everything. Not the woman who was 8 months pregnant with his daughter. He ran through the house calling her name. Emily! Emily! His voice echoed off walls that suddenly felt cavernous and empty. The nursery was the worst. Jake pushed open the door to the room they had spent weeks decorating together. The walls were painted soft yellow, the color of morning sunshine. Emily had chosen it because she said it would make the baby feel happy and safe. They had argued playfully about the shade, Emily wanting something brighter, Jake preferring something more subdued. In the end, they had compromised on a color right in the middle. Now the room was empty, the white crib was gone, the changing table was gone, the rocking chair where Emily had planned to nurse their daughter was gone. The mobile of felt stars that hung above the crib was gone. Even the soft yellow curtains had been removed from the windows. The only thing left was a rectangle of slightly darker yellow paint on the wall where the name letters had hung. Harper. They had put them up 2 weeks ago, making the baby real in a way she had not been before. Now even those were gone. Jake stumbled to the kitchen, desperate for something normal, something that would prove this was all a nightmare. Instead, he found the evidence of his own negligence laid out like an accusation. The dining table was set for 2, white tablecloth, their wedding china, candles that had burned down to stubs, wax pulled on the candlesticks. In the center of the table sat a meal that must have been beautiful hours ago. Now it looks fat and abandoned. Steak, cold and gray, mashed potatoes, congealed, green beans, limp. A chocolate cake with Happy 6th Anniversary written across the top in Emily's careful script. Beside his plate sat a card. Jake picked it up with numb fingers. The front showed 2 cartoon bears holding hands. Inside, Emily had written, 6 years ago I married my best friend. I still love that man, do you? Jake's knees gave out. He collapsed into the chair, the card falling from his fingers. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, hoping desperately that it was Emily, that she had changed her mind, that this was all some terrible misunderstanding. Unknown number. Jake answered on the first ring. Hello? Mr. Carter? A woman's voice, professional and cold. This is Patricia Brennan from Brennan and Associates. I represent your wife in divorce proceedings. You will be served papers within 48 hours. Do not attempt to contact Mrs. Carter, or you will be in violation of a restraining order. Have a good day. The line went dead before Jake could respond. He sat at the table for a long time, staring at the cold anniversary dinner, trying to understand how his life had imploded in the space of a single morning. Eventually, he tried Emily's phone. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. He tried her sister Maggie. She answered on the 3rd ring. Maggie, thank God, I need to talk to Emily. Is she... Maggie hung up without saying a word. He tried Emily's father in Ohio, a man who had never fully approved of Jake, but had welcomed him into the family for Emily's sake. Mr. Reed, I need to speak with Emily. She left and You are dead to this family, boy. The old man's voice shook with rage. You hear me? Dead. Click. Jake checked his laptop, desperate for any way to reach Emily. He opened their bank account frozen pending legal proceedings. He checked their credit cards. All canceled. He checked Find My iPhone. Emily's device was no longer sharing its location. She had planned this. That realization hit him like a freight train. This was not some impulsive decision made in anger. Emily had prepared. She had hired a lawyer. She had moved money. She had packed and left while he was with Sienna, celebrating what he thought was a perfect crime. His perfect wife had planned the perfect revenge. Jake's phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Sienna. Had fun last night. When can I see you again? He stared at the message, at the casual cruelty of it. Last night, while he was in bed with Sienna, Emily had been here, packing, leaving, taking their daughter and walking out of his life forever. Jake tried to call Sienna back, suddenly desperate to talk to someone, anyone who might understand. She answered cheerfully, Jake, I was just thinking about you. Emily left. She knows about us. There was a pause. Then Sienna's voice, carefully modulated. Oh my God, Jake, what are we going to do? This is my marriage, my baby, calm down. This might be a good thing. Now we can be together, publicly. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. I have a pregnant wife. Had. Sienna's voice was gentle, as if explaining something to a child. You had a pregnant wife. Now you have me. And isn't that what you wanted all along? Jake hung up without answering. He sat alone in his empty house, surrounded by the evidence of his own destruction, and understood for the first time what he had lost. Not just a wife, not just a daughter, but the entire life he had built, brick by brick, lie by lie, betrayal by betrayal. And the worst part, the part that would haunt him for years to come, was that he had no one to blame but himself. To understand how Jake Carter destroyed his life in a single night, you have to understand how it began. Not with Sienna, not with the affair, but with the slow erosion of a marriage that looked perfect from the outside. 3 months before Emily left, Jake Carter was living the American dream. At 38 years old, he had built Carter Holdings from nothing into a multi-million-dollar real estate development company. He drove a Tesla. He wore custom suits. He lived in a mansion in Pasadena with his beautiful wife and their baby on the way. From the outside, Jake had everything. From the inside, he felt trapped. It started so slowly that Jake did not notice it happening. First, there were the late nights at the office that stretched later and later. Then the business trips that felt less like work and more like escapes. Then the moment when he looked across the breakfast table at Emily, 7 months pregnant and glowing, and felt nothing but resentment. She had given up her career as an ER trauma nurse when they got married. It had been her choice, she insisted. She wanted to focus on building their family, on creating a home. But Jake could not shake the feeling that she had given up her identity to become an extension of his. Miss Jake Carter, the wife of the successful real estate developer, the woman who planned dinner parties and charity events and smiled for photos. He wanted the woman he had fallen in love with, the one who came home from 12-hour shifts in the emergency room with stories about saving lives, the one who was fierce and independent and did not need him for anything except love. But he also wanted the stability, the home-cooked meals, the clean house, the social capital that came with having a beautiful, devoted wife. He wanted everything and resented everything and did not understand that you could not have both. The business conference in San Francisco was supposed to be routine, 3 days of networking and presentations. Jake went alone, grateful for the break from domesticity. Emily was 7 months pregnant by then, moving slowly, nesting with an intensity that made Jake feel suffocated. On the first night, Jake went to the hotel bar. He told himself he was networking. He was good at networking. That was how you built a business, by meeting people, making connections, creating opportunities. That was when he met Sienna Brooks. She walked into the bar like she owned it, wearing a black dress that showed exactly the right amount of everything. Blonde hair fell in waves past her shoulders. Her makeup was perfect. Her smile was calculated. She sat down 2 seats away from Jake and ordered a martini, dirty, extra olives. The bartender knew her order without asking. Sienna caught Jake looking and smiled. Jake Carter, she said, as if they were old friends. I have read about you. Self-made millionaire by 35. Very impressive. Jake was flattered and wary in equal measure. And you are? Sienna Brooks, independent consultant. She extended a hand. Her nails were painted red, her handshake was firm. I specialize in helping businesses maximize their growth potential. They talked for an hour. Sienna was a good listener. She asked questions about his business, his goals, his vision for the future. She laughed at his jokes. She leaned in when he talked, as if every word was fascinating. Jake found himself complaining about his life, the pressure of running a company, the stress of impending fatherhood, the feeling of being trapped in a role he had chosen but now resented. Do not get me wrong, Jake said, his third whiskey making him more honest than he intended. I love Emily, but sometimes I miss feeling alive, Miss feeling like myself instead of just somebody's husband. Sienna nodded sympathetically. Marriage is hard, especially when you are as ambitious as you are. You need a partner who understands that drive, not someone who wants to domesticate it. Emily is not trying to domesticate me, is not she? Sienna signaled for another round. She gave up her career. She is planning your domestic life. Soon you will have a baby and all the responsibilities that come with it. When was the last time you felt free? Jake could not answer. He could not remember. You deserve to feel alive, Sienna said softly. She placed her hand on his arm. Her touch was electric. You have worked so hard to build your success. You should enjoy it. They kissed in the elevator. It was not planned. It just happened. One moment they were talking, and the next moment Jake's mouth was on hers, and her hands were in his hair, and he felt alive for the first time in months. They made love in Jake's hotel room. It was passionate and desperate, and nothing like the careful, considerate sex he had with Emily now that she was pregnant. Sienna was hungry in a way that made Jake feel wanted rather than needed. She did not require anything from him except pleasure. She did not want to talk about baby names or nursery colors or whether they should hire a night nurse. Afterward, Jake felt the guilt crash over him like a wave. I should not have done that. I am married. My wife is pregnant. Sienna was already getting dressed. What you should or should not do is up to you, Jake. I am not here to judge. I am here to help you remember who you are. She left without asking for his number. Jake lay in bed alone, certain it was a one-time mistake, a moment of weakness. He would go home to Emily and be a better husband, more attentive, more present, more grateful. But 3 days later, Sienna texted him, I am in Los Angeles for business. Would you like to get dinner? Jake told himself he was networking, building a professional relationship. Sienna was a consultant. Maybe she could help his business. They met at a restaurant in downtown Los Angeles, an expensive place with dim lighting and discreet booths where people went when they did not want to be seen. Sienna wore red. Jake could not stop looking at her. Tell me about your wife, Sienna said over appetizers. Emily, right? Jake was surprised by the question. What do you want to know? Everything. I want to understand what you are running from. I am not running from anything. Are you not? Sienna sipped her wine, studying him. You are here with me instead of home with her. That is running, Jake. Jake talked about Emily for an hour, how they met at a charity fundraiser 6 years ago, how Emily had been a nurse, saving lives, passionate about her work, how they got married after a year of dating, how Emily gave up her career because she wanted to focus on family, how somewhere along the way, the woman he married had become someone he did not recognize. She is perfect, Jake said, realizing how strange that sounded. That is the problem. She is too perfect, too understanding, too accommodating. I do not want to be accommodated. I want to be challenged. Then challenge yourself, Sienna said, and stop living the life everyone expects you to live. Start living the life you want. They went to a hotel after dinner, the Peninsula, where Jake and Emily had spent their honeymoon. Jake did not realize the significance until later, until Emily found the charge on their credit card statement and confronted him about the strange coincidence that he had been at the Peninsula for a business meeting when they had spent their honeymoon there. The affair became routine after that. Jake would tell Emily he had client meetings, business dinners, site visits. Emily would believe him because she always believed him, because a good wife trusted her husband. Jake told himself he was being careful. He used cash when he could. He bought Sienna gifts on a separate credit card. He showered before coming home to wash away her perfume. But he was not careful enough. He did not realize that Emily noticed everything. The way he flinched when she touched his phone, the distant look in his eyes when they made love, the lipstick stain on his collar that was not her shade, the jewelry charges for items she never received. Emily noticed all of it, and Emily said nothing. Instead, she hired Mitch Reynolds, a retired police detective who now worked as a private investigator. Mitch was in his 60s, built like a linebacker going soft, with the kind eyes of someone who had seen too much human failure. Emily met him at a coffee shop in Santa Monica, away from Pasadena, where someone might recognize her. She was 7 months pregnant, moving carefully, her belly preceding her like an announcement. "I think my husband is having an affair," Emily said without preamble. "I need proof." Mitch nodded. He had heard this story 1,000 times. "Tell me what you have noticed." Emily listed the evidence methodically, like she was presenting a patient history to a doctor. Late nights, perfume, credit card charges, secretive behavior. She did not cry. She did not ask for reassurance. She presented facts and waited for Mitch to confirm what she already knew. "I can get you proof," Mitch said. "But ma'am, I have to ask, what will you do with it?" Emily placed both hands on her pregnant belly. "I'm going to protect my daughter. That is all that matters now." Mitch followed Jake for 2 weeks. He took photos of Jake and Sienna at restaurants, holding hands across tables. He photographed them kissing in parking garages. He documented every meeting, every hotel visit, every moment of Jake's betrayal. When Mitch delivered his report, Emily was 8 months pregnant. They met at the same coffee shop. Mitch slid a manila envelope across the table. "I am sorry, ma'am, but you should also know he has been taking money from your joint account. $47,000 in 3 months. Emily opened the envelope and studied each photograph with clinical detachment. This one showed Jake and Sienna at dinner. This one showed them entering a hotel. This one showed Jake buying jewelry at a store where Emily had never shopped. "Thank you," Emily said, sliding the photos back into the envelope. "Can you recommend a good divorce attorney?" Mitch wrote a name on a napkin. Patricia Brennan, the best divorce attorney in California. Expensive, but worth every penny. Emily called Patricia from the parking lot. They met the next day. Patricia listened to Emily's story without interruption, taking notes in a leather-bound notebook. "You have excellent documentation," Patricia said. "With this evidence, we can get full custody, substantial support, and a favorable asset division." "I do not want revenge," Emily said. "I want security. For my daughter, for myself." "Then let us make sure you get it." Over the next month, Emily prepared. She opened a separate bank account at a different bank and transferred her inheritance from her mother's estate, $85,000. Not enough to live on forever, but enough to start over. She photographed every financial document, every business record, every piece of evidence that might be relevant in divorce proceedings. She moved irreplaceable items to a storage unit: her mother's jewelry, baby photos, her grandmother's wedding ring, things Jake might try to keep out of spite. She downloaded 3 months of phone records, emails, credit card statements. She created a timeline of Jake's affair, documenting every lie, every betrayal, every dollar spent on his mistress. "This is bulletproof," Patricia told her. "When you are ready, we file." Emily wanted to wait until after the baby was born. She wanted one more chance for Jake to choose them, one more opportunity for him to be the man she married instead of the man he had become. So she planned an anniversary dinner. She made Jake's favorite meal. She wore a dress that barely fit over her pregnant belly. She set the table with candles and their wedding china. She wrote a card asking if he still loved the man she married. And Jake chose Sienna. He chose champagne in a penthouse over dinner with his pregnant wife. He chose lies over love. He chose immediate gratification over lasting commitment. And Emily chose herself. That night, while Jake celebrated his anniversary with his mistress, Emily went into early labor. Stress-induced contractions that came fast and hard. She called her sister Maggie. "It is time," Emily said through the pain. "Not the baby, it is time to go." Maggie arrived at midnight with a moving truck and two strong friends who asked no questions. They packed while Emily supervised, one hand on her belly, timing contractions. Baby furniture, Emily's clothes, important documents, every trace of Emily's presence. At 2:47 in the morning, Emily removed her wedding ring. The gold band had been on her finger for 6 years. 6 years of promises. 6 years of believing that love was enough. 6 years of learning the hard truth that love without respect was worthless. She placed the ring on Jake's pillow. She wrote the note on their good stationery. She took one final look at the house where she had thought she would raise her daughter. Then she walked out. Maggie helped her into the car. They drove south to San Diego, 120 miles away from the life Emily had built and the man who had destroyed it. Emily's contractions stopped after an hour. False labor, her body's way of telling her the stress was too much. She spent the rest of the night at Maggie's house, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she had made a mistake. But when her phone rang the next morning and Jake's name appeared on the screen, Emily knew she had made the only choice that mattered. She had chosen survival. And survival meant starting over without the man who had promised to love her forever and loved himself more. 48 hours after Jake found the ring and note on his pillow, he was sitting in his office trying to pretend his life had not imploded when a process server walked through the door. "Jake Carter?" "Yes." "You have been served." The man dropped a thick manila envelope on Jake's desk and left without another word. Jake's business partner, Derek Hollins, stood in the doorway, watching with barely concealed disgust. Jake opened the envelope with shaking hands. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The words swam before his eyes. Petitioner, Emily Rose Reed Carter. Respondent, Jacob Michael Carter. The petition was 47 pages long. Each page was another nail in Jake's coffin. Request for emergency spousal support, $15,000 per month. Request for full legal and physical custody of minor child Harper Rose Carter, unborn. Request for 50% of all marital assets, including real property, business interests, and retirement accounts. Restraining order requiring respondent to maintain minimum distance of 50 feet from petitioner. The evidence attachments were worse. 3 months of credit card statements, every suspicious charge highlighted in yellow. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, jewelry purchases. A timeline of Jake's affair documented with the precision of a trauma nurse who knew how to keep accurate records. There were photographs. Jake and Sienna holding hands across a restaurant table. Jake and Sienna kissing in a parking garage. Jake entering a hotel with Sienna at 6 p.m. and leaving at 11 p.m., his shirt untucked and his tie loose. Every moment of his betrayal, captured and cataloged and presented to a judge who would decide his future. "Tell me this is not what I think it is," Derek said from the doorway. Jake could not look at him, could not meet the eyes of the man who had been his friend since business school, who had taken a chance on him when Carter Holdings was just an idea and a loan. "Derek, I can explain. The company credit card charges, the business trips, Jesus Christ, Jake." Derek walked into the office and closed the door. "Did you use company money to screw around on your pregnant wife?" Jake wanted to lie. The lie was right there, ready to deploy. It was a misunderstanding. The charges were legitimate. Someone had made a mistake. But the evidence was overwhelming. And Derek was already pulling up records on his phone, scrolling through months of expenses. $127,000, Derek said, his voice dangerously quiet. "You embezzled $127,000 from our company to fund an affair. I was going to pay it back." "You were going to pay it back." Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. "We are partners, Jake. 50-50. You stole from me. You stole from our employees. You put this entire company at risk because you wanted to play house with some woman." "It was not like that." "Then what was it like? Explain it to me." Derek sat down, arms crossed. "Explain how you look your pregnant wife in the face every morning and then spend our company's money on hotels and jewelry for your mistress. Explain how that works." Jake had no explanation. He sat there in his expensive leather chair in his corner office with its view of downtown Los Angeles, and he had no words. "I need to call the other partners," Derek said finally. "We are going to have an emergency meeting." "Derek, please, we can work this out." "No," Derek stood up. "We cannot work this out. You made sure of that when you decided your dick was more important than your integrity." The emergency partner meeting happened that afternoon in the conference room where Jake had closed his first major deal 5 years ago. 6 men and 2 women sat around the table, people who had trusted Jake, people who had built their careers on the success of Carter Holdings. Derek presented the evidence. The credit card statements, the timeline, the total amount embezzled. $127,000 over 3 months. The choice is simple, Derek said. We force Jake out and hope his personal scandal does not destroy us. Or we press charges and publicly distance ourselves from his fraud. You would send me to jail? Jake could not believe what he was hearing. We are partners. We're partners. Ours, said Maggie Lawson, their CFO, past tense. You broke that partnership when you started stealing from us. The vote was unanimous. Jake would be forced to sell his share of the company at a 60% discount. He would resign immediately. He would sign a non-compete agreement prohibiting him from working in real estate development in California for 5 years. Or they would press criminal charges for embezzlement. Jake signed the papers that afternoon with a single signature. He lost the business he had spent 10 years building, the company that bore his name, his entire professional identity. His phone rang as he was clearing out his office. Unknown number. He answered anyway, desperate for any lifeline. Is this Jake Carter? Yes. Who is this? This is Jennifer Morrison from the Los Angeles Times. I am writing a story about your divorce and wanted to get your comment on the allegations of infidelity and embezzlement. Jake hung up. The story would run whether he commented or not. By tomorrow morning, everyone in Los Angeles would know that Jake Carter, the self-made real estate developer, had thrown away everything for an affair. His reputation, built over a decade of hard work, would be destroyed in a single news cycle. Meanwhile, 120 miles south in San Diego, Emily was in labor. She had made it to 36 weeks before her body decided it was time. The contractions started at 7 p.m. while she was eating dinner at Maggie's house. By 8 p.m., they were coming every 5 minutes. By 9 p.m., Emily was in the car on the way to St. Mary's Medical Center. Maggie was driving, trying to stay calm, while her sister groaned through contractions in the passenger seat. We are almost there, Em. Hold on. I am not going anywhere, Emily managed between breaths. That is the problem. They arrived at the hospital at 9:30. Emily was 7 centimeters dilated. The baby was coming fast. The nurse asked for Emily's emergency contacts. My sister Margaret Reed, that is it. What about your husband? Should we call him? Emily, breathing through another contraction, said clearly, I do not have a husband. Maggie held Emily's hand while they wheeled her to a delivery room. She stayed through the epidural and the long wait as Emily dilated the final 3 centimeters. She stayed while Emily pushed, crying not from pain, but from fear and anger and grief for the man who should have been there, but had chosen to be somewhere else. You are so strong, Maggie whispered. You are the strongest person I know. I do not feel strong. I feel alone, there. You are not alone. I am here. I am not going anywhere. At 11:47 p.m., Harper Rose Carter entered the world weighing 6 pounds 8 ounces, with her father's dark hair and a cry that could wake the dead. The doctor placed her on Emily's chest, and Emily felt something break open inside here. Not pain, something bigger. Love so fierce it felt like violence. Hi, baby girl, Emily whispered. I am your mom, and I am going to protect you from everything. I promise. Outside in the hospital parking lot, Jake sat in his car watching Emily's window. He had found out about the labor through a mutual friend's Facebook post. Congratulations to Emily Carter on the birth of baby Harper. He had driven 2 hours from Los Angeles, speeding the entire way, certain that if he could just see Emily, just explain, everything would be okay. But when he tried to enter the hospital, security stopped him. Sir, I need you to step back. That is my wife up there. That is my baby being born. The security guard checked his clipboard. Mrs. Carter has a restraining order against you. You cannot be on hospital property. You do not understand. I am the father. Sir, if you do not leave immediately, I will call the police. Jake stood in the hospital entrance. So close to his daughter's birth, but separated by a legal barrier he had created through his own actions. He could see people coming and going, excited fathers carrying flowers, grandparents with balloons, families united in joy. And he was alone in a parking lot, locked out of the most important moment of his life. His phone rang. Sienna. He sent it to voicemail. It rang again. His mother. He ignored it. It rang a third time. Patricia Brennan, Emily's attorney. He answered, Mr. Carter, this is Patricia Brennan. I am calling to inform you that your daughter, Harper Rose Carter, was born at 11:47 p.m., weighing 6 pounds 8 ounces. Both mother and child are healthy. You will be notified of paternity test scheduling and visitation arrangements house through your attorney. Any attempt to contact Mrs. Carter directly will result in your arrest for violation of the restraining order. Congratulations on becoming a father. The line went dead. Jake sat in his car until dawn, watching the window of Emily's room, crying for the first time since he was a child. He cried for his marriage. He cried for his business. He cried for his daughter, born into a world where her father had already failed her before she took her first breath. As the sun rose over San Diego, Jake understood with terrible clarity what he had lost. Not just a wife, not just a daughter, but his entire sense of self. The man he thought he was had never existed. He had been playing a role, convincing himself he could have everything while giving nothing. And now he had nothing. No marriage, no business, no reputation. Just a daughter he was not allowed to meet and a mistress who had already stopped answering his calls. Jake drove back to Los Angeles in the early morning light, back to his empty house where the nursery stood empty and the anniversary dinner still sat on the table, a monument to his own failure. He poured himself a drink at 8 in the morning, then another, then another. By noon, he was drunk enough to call Sienna. Hey, baby, she answered cheerfully. I have been thinking about you. Emily had the baby. Oh, a girl. Harper. There was a pause. Oh, well, congratulations? I could not see her. They would not let me in the hospital. Another pause. Longer this time. Jake, maybe this is a sign. Maybe this is the universe telling you it is time to let go of that old life and embrace the new one. With me. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. The new life where I have no business, no money, and no daughter. The new life where you are free. Sienna's voice was patient, as if explaining something to a child. You do not need Emily. You do not need that baby. You need someone who understands you. Someone who does not try to trap you with responsibility and obligation. That baby is my daughter. Is she? Or is she just another way for Emily to control you? Jake hung up. He sat alone in his empty house and looked at his phone, at Sienna's name in his contacts, and saw clearly for the first time what she was. Not a lover, not a partner, but a predator who had targeted him with surgical precision and led him straight into his own destruction. And he had followed willingly, eagerly, because he was too arrogant to see the trap until it closed around him. 2 weeks later, Emily was living in Maggie's spare bedroom, with Harper sleeping in a bassinet beside her. The room was small but bright, with windows that looked out over a garden where Maggie's kids played. It was nothing like the mansion in Pasadena, but it felt safer, cleaner, free of lies. Emily video called Patricia from her laptop while Harper slept. What happens now? Now we fight. We have frozen all marital assets, Jake's accounts, properties, business interests. He cannot touch a dime without court approval. Good. He spent my mother's inheritance on his mistress. I want it back. We will get more than that. I am filing for full custody, maximum child support, half of all business assets. By the time we are done, you will be financially secure for years. I do not want revenge. I want Harper to be safe. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. The first custody hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks after Harper's birth. Emily drove to the courthouse in San Diego with Maggie, Harper in her infant car seat. Emily wore a navy dress that she had bought specifically for court, conservative and professional. She had lost most of the pregnancy weight already, stress and sleeplessness burning calories faster than any diet. Jake was waiting outside the courtroom with his attorney, Richard Sutton. Richard was exactly what Emily expected. Expensive suit, slicked back hair, shark eyes that calculated the value of everything they saw. Jake looked terrible, unshaven, rumpled. His suit was wrinkled, as if he had slept in it. When Jake saw Harper in her carrier, his face crumpled. He took a step toward them. Emily stepped back instinctively. A bailiff moved between them. Mr. Carter, maintain your distance. Jake stopped, hands raised. I just want to see my daughter. You will have that opportunity through proper channels, Patricia said crisply. Step back. They entered the courtroom. Judge Morrison presided, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and reading glasses perched on her nose. She had seen 1,000 divorces, 1,000 men who claimed to love their children while destroying their families. Patricia presented Emily's case methodically. The affair, documented through photographs and financial records. The embezzlement, the abandonment during labor. Jake's complete lack of involvement in prenatal care. The restraining order Emily had requested after Jake showed up drunk at Maggie's house 2 days after Harper's birth, demanding to see his daughter. Richard Sutton countered with accusations. Emily had abandoned the marriage. Emily had alienated Jake from his child. Emily had fled the state to make visitation difficult. Emily was vindictive in punishing Jake for a mistake. A mistake? Judge Morrison looked up from her notes. Mr. Sutton, your client conducted a 6-month affair, embezzled over $100,000, and missed his daughter's birth because he was with his mistress. That is not a mistake. That is a pattern of choices. Your Honor, with respect, my client has rights as a father. Rights come with responsibilities, the judge interrupted. Responsibilities your client abdicated. Mrs. Carter, I am granting your petition for temporary full custody. Mr. Carter will have supervised visitation for 2 hours per week at an approved facility. He will pay emergency temporary support of $8,500 per month. Standard paternity testing will be required to establish legal parentage. Jake stood up. Your Honor, please. She is my daughter. Then you should have acted like her father, Judge Morrison said. Court adjourned. Emily walked out of the courthouse feeling like she could breathe for the first time in months. She had won. Harper was safe. They were going to be okay. She called Maggie from the parking lot. We won. Harper is safe. We are going to be okay. Maggie was crying on the other end. I am so proud of you, Em. Emily hung up and stood in the California sunshine holding Harper's carrier, feeling strong for the first time since this nightmare began. Then a man in a suit approached. Excuse me, are you Emily Carter? Yes. He handed her a manila envelope. You have been served. Emily opened it with shaking hands. Petition for emergency custody modification. Evidence of parental unfitness. Inside were documents claiming Emily was an unfit mother, claiming Harper might not be Jake's biological child, claiming Emily had alienated Jake from his daughter and fled the state to avoid proper custody proceedings. The first battle was over. Emily had won, but the war was just beginning. The story broke on TMZ 3 days before the emergency custody hearing. Real estate mogul's wife in paternity scandal. The headline appeared at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. By 9 a.m. it had been picked up by every gossip site and local news outlet in Southern California. By 10 a.m. Emily's phone was exploding with notifications. She was at Maggie's house, feeding Harper, when the first text arrived, a friend from her old nursing job. Em, is this true? Call me. Emily opened her social media. The notifications were overwhelming. 347 on Facebook, 212 on Instagram, strangers commenting on photos from years ago, people she had not spoken to since high school sending messages. Is your baby really his? The TMZ article was brutal. Sources close to the Carter divorce claim Emily Carter may have been unfaithful during her marriage. Jake Carter's legal team has presented evidence suggesting Harper Carter may not be his biological child. The evidence includes photographs of Emily with an unidentified man and hotel receipts suggesting multiple affairs. The photographs were AI-generated deepfakes, though Emily did not know that yet. They showed her at restaurants with a man who did not exist. They showed her entering hotels she had never visited. They showed her in intimate poses with someone who had been digitally created from scratch. Sienna Brooks had paid $15,000 to a tech expert on the dark web to create these images. She had used Emily's Facebook photos as source material, generating dozens of realistic fakes showing Emily in compromising positions. The hotel receipts were easier. Sienna had access to Jake's credit card information. She fabricated charges at hotels on dates when Emily had been home alone, pregnant and waiting for her husband to return from his actual affair. The witness statement came from a former neighbor. Todd Williams had lived next door to the Carters for 2 years before moving to Arizona. Sienna found him through public records and paid him $5,000 to sign an affidavit claiming he had seen strange cars in the Carter driveway at odd hours. Men visiting when Jake was traveling for business. None of it was true, but it looked true, and in the age of social media, appearance was enough. Emily's phone rang, her father calling from Ohio. "Emily, I just got an email with some news article. What is going on?" Emily was crying now, Harper fussing in her arms, responding to her mother's distress. "Dad, it is not true. None of it is true. Harper is Jake's daughter. I never cheated. Someone is lying." "I believe you, honey. Of course I believe you. But this is everywhere. My friends are calling me. People at church are asking questions. What are we going to do?" "I do not know. I have to call my lawyer." Emily hung up and called Patricia. "Have you seen the TMZ story?" "I'm looking at it now. Emily, this is Jake's legal team. This is their strategy. They are going to destroy your reputation to win custody." "But it is all lies. I never cheated. Those photographs are not real." "I know, but proving that will take time. And meanwhile, the damage is done." The damage was catastrophic. Emily went to the grocery store that afternoon because they needed diapers and formula. She wore sunglasses and a baseball cap, trying to be invisible. But a woman in the diaper aisle recognized her. "You should be ashamed of yourself." Emily looked up, startled. The woman was in her 50s, well-dressed, carrying a basket of organic produce. "Excuse me? That poor man, working so hard to provide for his family, and you are out cheating on him and lying about who fathered your baby. You are disgusting." Emily felt Harper squirming in the carrier against her chest. "You do not know what you are talking about." "I know what I read. Gold digger, baby trapper. You are what is wrong with women today." Emily ran out of the store, Harper crying, both of them in tears. She sat in her car in the parking lot and sobbed until she could not breathe. The legal consequences came faster than Emily could process. Judge Morrison ordered an emergency hearing. She ordered immediate paternity testing through a court-approved laboratory. She ordered Child Protective Services to open an investigation based on the allegations of Emily's unfitness as a mother. The social worker arrived at Maggie's house 2 days later. Her name was Jennifer Park, mid-40s, exhausted eyes that had seen too many broken families. She inspected the spare bedroom where Emily and Harper slept. She opened the refrigerator and cupboards. She examined Harper, checking for signs of neglect or abuse. "Do you use drugs or alcohol, Mrs. Carter?" "No, never." "Have you ever harmed your child?" "Of course not. I am a nurse." "I would never hurt Harper." "Ma'am, I am required to investigate all allegations. If you could provide a urine sample for drug testing, that would help us close this case quickly." Emily provided the sample. Clean, obviously, but the investigation would take weeks to complete. And until it was complete, CPS had the authority to take Harper if they deemed it necessary for the child's safety. The worst came 4 days after the TMZ story broke. Emily was at a court-ordered paternity test appointment when her phone rang. Maggie, sobbing. "Em, you need to come home right now." "What is wrong? Is Harper okay?" "CPS is here. They are taking her." Emily ran out of the medical clinic, still wearing the hospital bracelet from the blood draw. She drove 80 miles per hour back to Maggie's house, praying she would not get pulled over, praying she would make it in time. She was too late. A CPS van was pulling away when Emily screeched into the driveway. She ran after it, screaming Harper's name. The van did not stop. Emily collapsed in the driveway. Maggie ran out and held her while she screamed. Not words, just sound. The sound of a mother whose child has been taken. The sound of agony so complete, there were no words for it. Jennifer Park, the social worker, stood on the lawn looking miserable. "Mrs. Carter, I am sorry. This is temporary, standard procedure when there are allegations of parental unfitness. If your drug test is clean and the home inspection passes, we will return Harper within 48 hours. She needs me. She is only 3 weeks old. She is breastfeeding. We have formula. She will be cared for." "I am her mother." "I know. And if you are the mother you claim to be, you will have her back in 2 days. But right now, my job is to protect the child. That is what I am doing." Emily spent 48 hours in hell. She could not sleep, could not eat. She sat in the empty spare bedroom where Harper's bassinet sat unused and cried until she made herself sick. Maggie tried to comfort her. They will give her back. Your drug test will be clean. The house is fine. She will be home soon. He did this. Jake did this. He took my baby to punish me. I know. I hate him. I hate him so much I can barely breathe. The 48 hours passed. The drug test came back clean. The home inspection passed. Harper's pediatrician provided a statement confirming Harper was well cared for and meeting all developmental milestones. The paternity test came back. 99.99% probability. Jake Carter is the biological father of Harper Rose Carter. CPS returned Harper on a Thursday afternoon. Emily was waiting on the front lawn when the van pulled up. Jennifer Park carried Harper out in her car seat. Emily's arms were shaking so badly she could barely unbuckle the carrier. Harper was crying. She had been crying for hours. She wanted her mother. Emily pulled her daughter out of the car seat and held her, both of them crying. Harper rooted immediately for Emily's breast, desperate and hungry. Emily sat down right there on the long lawn and nursed her daughter while CPS drove away. I am so sorry, baby, Emily whispered. I am so sorry. I will never let them take you again. Never. But the damage was done. The story of Emily's alleged infidelity had gone viral. Even after the paternity test proved Harper was Jake's daughter, the doubt remained. People still commented on Emily's social media, still sent hateful messages, still called her a liar and a gold digger. Emily applied for nursing jobs. She had excellent credentials, years of ER experience, glowing recommendations from her previous employers. But every application was rejected. Hospital HR departments Googled her name and found the TMZ article, found the accusations, found the scandal. No one wanted to hire the woman from the paternity scandal. Too much liability, too much drama. Maggie's small boutique suffered too. Customers stopped coming. Someone wrote "homewrecker" on the front window in spray paint. Someone left a dead rat on the doorstep with a note that said, "This is what cheaters deserve." Emily's life had become a nightmare from which she could not wake up, and it was all based on lies. Patricia's investigator, a man named Frank Reynolds, who specialized in digital forensics, analyzed the photographs. It took him 3 days to prove they were artificially generated using deep learning algorithms. The faces were real, the bodies were real, but they had never existed together in the same physical space. Frank traced the images to a burner account that had been created 2 weeks before they appeared online. The account had been accessed from an IP address in West Hollywood that belonged to a coffee shop with public Wi-Fi. But the payment for the deepfake creation came from a PayPal account registered to a shell company in Delaware. And that shell company had received a wire transfer of $15,000 from an account owned by Sienna Brooks. She did this, Emily said, staring at the evidence. Jake's mistress did this. Looks that way, Frank said. She paid a professional to create fake evidence, then leaked it to the media to destroy your reputation. Can we prove it? In court? Eventually. But it will take time. And meanwhile, the damage is done. Emily filed a police report. The detective was sympathetic, but not optimistic. Ma'am, cybercrime cases are difficult to prosecute. The evidence is offshore. The perpetrators use encryption and anonymizers. We will investigate, but I need you to understand this could take months or years to resolve. And in the meantime, my reputation is destroyed. I am sorry, that is the reality. Emily sat in Patricia's office and tried to figure out how to survive. I cannot get a job. I cannot afford an apartment. I am living with my sister with a 3-week-old baby and no income. How am I supposed to fight this? We fight in court. We present the evidence. We prove the allegations are false. And we sue Jake and Sienna for defamation, emotional distress, and intentional infliction of harm. That will take years. Yes, it will. Emily went home and held Harper, rocking her while she slept. She thought about giving up, thought about signing over custody to Jake in exchange for enough money to disappear, thought about running away from this nightmare and starting over somewhere no one knew her name. But then Harper opened her eyes and looked at her mother with complete trust, complete faith that Emily would protect her, keep her safe, be there no matter what. and Emily decided to fight. Not because she was strong, not because she was brave, but because she was Harper's mother, and that meant she did not get to quit. 3 months after Harper's birth, Emily had $847 in her checking account. $28,000 in legal fees had consumed her inheritance. Moving costs, medical bills, and everyday expenses for a newborn had taken the rest. She sat at Maggie's kitchen table with her laptop open, staring at her bank balance, trying to figure out impossible math. Rent for even a small studio apartment in San Diego, $1,800 per month. Daycare so Emily could work, $1,200 per month. Utilities, food, diapers, formula to supplement breastfeeding, $600 per month. She needed $3,600 per month minimum to survive. She had $847 total. Harper fussed in her bouncy seat, and Emily picked her up automatically, settling her daughter against her shoulder while she clicked through job applications. She had applied to 42 nursing positions in the past month, 42 rejections. Her phone rang. Patricia Brennan. Emily, we need to talk about legal fees. I know, I am sorry. I just need a little more time to stop. I am not calling to pressure you for payment. I am calling to tell you I am going to work pro bono for the rest of this case. Emily's throat tightened. Patricia, you cannot do that. You have been more than generous already. I can and I will. Emily, I have been a divorce attorney for 30 years. I have seen a lot of bad men do a lot of terrible things to good women. But what Jake and Sienna did to you is beyond anything I have encountered. I will not let them win because you ran out of money. Emily cried, the kind of tears that come from relief so overwhelming it felt like pain. Thank you. Thank you so much. Do not thank me yet. We still have a long fight ahead. After she hung up, Emily looked at Harper. We have help, baby girl. We are not alone. But Emily had never felt more alone in her life. Jake's lawyers were delaying support payments with every legal tactic available. First, they claimed Emily had not provided adequate financial documentation. Then they claimed she was cohabiting with Maggie and therefore did not need financial support. Then they claimed Jake's income had decreased substantially due to his forced exit from Carter Holdings, so he could not afford the court-ordered amount. Judge Morrison was losing patience. At a hearing in early December, she addressed Jake's attorney directly. Mr. Sutton, your client has failed to make a single support payment since Mrs. Carter filed for divorce. His daughter is 3 months old. Where is the money? Your Honor, my client's financial situation has changed dramatically. He lost his business. He has significant legal fees. He is doing the best he can. The best he can is not good enough. I am ordering Mr. Carter to pay $12,000 in back support immediately, plus $8,500 per month going forward. If he fails to comply, I will hold him in contempt. Jake stood up in court. Your Honor, I do not have $12,000. Then get it. Sell your car, sell your furniture, borrow from family. I do not care how you get it, but you will pay what you owe to support your child. Jake slumped back into his seat, defeated. Emily should have felt victorious. Instead, she felt exhausted. The money would help, but it would not undo the past 3 months of poverty and desperation. That night, Emily could not produce enough breast milk. Stress had destroyed her supply. Harper cried for hours, hungry and inconsolable. Emily tried everything: pumping, nursing, warm compresses, lactation supplements. Nothing worked. She finally gave Harper a bottle of formula and watched her daughter drink greedily, the crying finally stopping. And Emily broke down completely. I cannot do this. I cannot give her what she needs. Maggie found her on the bathroom floor, sitting against the tub, sobbing so hard she was hyperventilating. Em, breathe. You need to breathe. I failed. I cannot even feed my own baby. Stop. You are enough. Formula is fine. Harper is fine. You are more than enough. But Emily did not feel like enough. She felt like a failure, a burden, a woman who had lost everything and did not know how to build it back. Maggie made a suggestion the next morning. What about crowdfunding, a GoFundMe campaign for your legal fees? I cannot beg for money online. It is not begging. It is community. It is people helping people. There is no shame in asking for help when you need it. Emily resisted for 3 days. But on the fourth day, when she got another rejection email from a hospital in La Jolla, she gave in. They created the GoFundMe together. Help Emily fight for her daughter. They told the story carefully, focusing on facts rather than emotions. Emily's dedication to being a good mother, the false accusations, the legal battle for custody, the need for funds to continue fighting. They included a photo of Harper, 3 months old, smiling at the camera. Emily was terrified no one would donate. She expected judgment and cruelty. Instead, in 24 hours, strangers donated $3,400. The comments made Emily cry. "Stay strong, Mama. You are doing amazing." "I went through something similar. It gets better. I promise. Your daughter is lucky to have you. Do not give up. Your ex-husband is a coward. You are a warrior. This reminded me of my sister's divorce. Sending love and support. My daughter is watching you fight and learning what strength looks like." Emily read every comment, every message of support from strangers who owed her nothing but gave anyway. She cried reading them, but they were tears of hope instead of despair. The crowdfunding gave Emily enough money to survive for 2 more months. But more importantly, it gave her something she had lost: faith that goodness existed in the world. Patricia found irregularities in Jake's business records while reviewing the financial disclosures for the divorce. Derek Holland, Jake's former business partner, had provided documentation showing Jake had embezzled not just from affair expenses, but had been inflating his salary and diverting company funds for personal use for over a year. Total amount, $173,000. "This is fraud," Patricia said, "criminal fraud. If we present this evidence, Jake could face jail time. Will it help with custody? It will show a pattern of dishonesty and criminal behavior. It will absolutely help." CPS officially closed their investigation in January. Allegations unfounded, no evidence of parental unfitness. Case closed. Emily kept the letter. She framed it and hung it in Harper's room as a reminder that the truth had prevailed. Judge Morrison sanctioned Jake's legal team in February for filing frivolous motions and wasting court time. "Mr. Sutton, you have filed 6 emergency motions in 4 months. Every single one has been denied. If you continue this pattern, I will report you to the state bar for unethical conduct." The sanctions required Jake to pay $15,000 for Emily's legal fees related to defending against the false accusations. Money Jake did not have. Money he had to borrow from his mother. Small victories, tiny steps forward. Emily collected them like precious stones, building a foundation 1 win at a time. In March, Emily got a call from Children's Hospital San Diego. They wanted to interview her for an ER nurse position. "Your resume is impressive, Mrs. Carter." "It is Miss Reed now. I'm going back to my maiden name." "Miss Reed, we understand you have had some personal difficulties recently." Emily waited for the rejection. Here it came. The scandal had followed her again, but the hospital administrator surprised her. "I want you to know we Googled you. We read the articles. We also read the court documents showing the allegations were false. We believe in second chances here. More importantly, we believe in the truth." Emily cried in the interview. Unprofessional, but she could not help it. They offered her the $78,000 salary, benefits, flexible scheduling for single parents. She could work 3 12-hour shifts per week, giving her 4 days at home with Harper. Emily called Patricia from the hospital parking lot. "I got a job, a real job." "That is wonderful, Emily. See, things are starting to turn around." Emily picked up Harper from Maggie's house that afternoon, holding her daughter close. "We are going to be okay, baby. We are going to make it." And for the first time since Jake found the ring and note on his pillow, Emily believed it. 6 months after Harper's birth, Emily's life had settled into a manageable rhythm. She worked night shifts at Children's Hospital 3 days per week. Harper stayed with Maggie on those nights, and Emily pumped breast milk during her breaks to leave bottles. It was not perfect, but it was sustainable. Emily had her own apartment now, small but hers. 1 bedroom, so Harper slept in a crib next to Emily's bed. The furniture came from thrift stores and Craigslist. The dishes were mismatched. The couch had a stain on one cushion that she covered with a blanket, but it was clean and safe and belonged to her. For the first time in a year, Emily could breathe. The custody arrangement had stabilized. Jake had supervised visitation every other Saturday for 4 hours. He showed up on time, followed the rules, and seemed genuinely engaged with Harper. He was learning to be a father, slowly and imperfectly, but he was learning. Emily even had friends again, co-workers who invited her to lunch, other single mothers from Harper's playgroup, people who knew her story but saw her as Emily, not as the woman from the scandal. On a Tuesday in April, Emily took Harper to the beach for the first time. Harper was 7 months old now, sitting up, babbling constantly, reaching for everything. Emily set up a blanket on the sand and let Harper feel the ocean breeze on her face. Harper laughed, a real laugh, not just a baby giggle, a laugh of pure joy at the feeling of wind and sun and her mother's arms around her. Emily took a photo, Harper's tiny feet in the sand, the ocean behind them. She posted it on Instagram with the caption, "New beginnings. We made it, baby girl." Within an hour, the post had 2,000 likes. Comments flooded in with support and encouragement. Emily smiled, reading them. Maybe the nightmare was really over. Maybe they had survived. That night, Emily went to bed feeling happy for the first time in over a year. She woke at 6 a.m. to 89 missed calls. Emily's first thought was that someone had died. She grabbed her phone, heart racing, checking the caller IDs. Maggie, her father, friends from work, former nursing school classmates, numbers she did not recognize. She called Maggie back. Her sister answered on the first ring. "Em, do not go online. Do not look at anything. I am coming over right now." "Maggie, what is happening? What is wrong?" "Please, just wait for me. I will be there in 10 minutes. But Emily was already opening Instagram. Her feed was filled with tags, notifications, comments. She clicked on one. The video started playing automatically. Emily watched herself enter a nightclub wearing a tight dress she did not own. Watched herself drink shot after shot at the bar, clearly intoxicated. Watched herself go into the bathroom. Watched herself bend over a sink and snort a line of white powder. Watched herself leave the bathroom and make out with a random man in the corner, his hands all over her body. The timestamp on the video read, last Thursday, 11:34 p.m. Last Thursday at 11:34 p.m., Emily had been in bed, asleep, with Harper in the crib beside her. Maggie could confirm it. Her apartment complex had security cameras in the hallways. Her phone's location data would show she never left. But the video looked real. The face was hers. The voice was hers. The woman in the video was her in every detail except the truth. Emily watched it twice, 3 times, trying to understand what she was seeing. It was impossible. She had never been to that club, had never worn that dress, had never done drugs in her life. But the video looked absolutely real. The caption on the TikTok video read, "Single Mom of the Year, Jake Carter's ex-wife partying while baby at home. No wonder he left." The hashtag Emily Carter Exposed was trending, 2.3 million views, and climbing. The comments were vicious. CPS needs to take that baby away from her. Drug addict trash, that poor father. This is what she was doing instead of taking care of her kid? Jake was right about her all along. Gold-digging whore. I hope she loses custody. That baby deserves better. Emily's hands were shaking so hard she dropped her phone. Harper started crying, sensing her mother's distress. Emily picked her up automatically, holding her daughter while trying not to hyperventilate. This was not real. This could not be real. But it looked real, and that was all that mattered. By 8 a.m., the local news was running the story. Viral video shows mother allegedly using drugs. By 9 a.m., every major gossip site had picked it up. By 10 a.m., Emily's phone was ringing off the hook. The hospital called. "Emily, we need you to come in. We need to discuss this video. It is fake. I was home Thursday night. I can prove it. I have an alibi. We still need to discuss it. Can you come in this afternoon?" Emily went to the hospital at 2 p.m., leaving Harper with Maggie. Her supervisor and an HR representative were waiting in a conference room. "Emily, we have seen the video. We understand you claim it is fake." "It is fake. I was home Thursday night. My sister can confirm it. My apartment building has security cameras. My phone's location data shows I never left my apartment." The HR representative took notes. "We will need to verify all of that. In the meantime, we are placing you on administrative leave pending investigation." You are suspending me for something that did not happen? We are placing you on leave. There is a difference. We need to investigate, and we cannot have you working with patients while there are questions about your judgment. My judgment? I did not do anything wrong. But they were not listening. Emily was escorted out of the hospital, her badge temporarily deactivated, her shift schedule cleared for the foreseeable future. She sat in her car in the parking lot and called Patricia. I saw it, Patricia said before Emily could speak. I am already working on it. I have a forensic expert analyzing the video. We will prove it is fake. How long will that take? 72 hours minimum. But Emily, the damage is already done. CPS has reopened your case. Jake's lawyers have filed another emergency motion for custody. The state board has opened an investigation into your nursing license. My nursing license? Patricia, I did not do anything. I know, but we have to prove it. And proving takes time. Emily drove home in a daze. Maggie was waiting with Harper, who was crying inconsolably. She wanted her mother. Emily held Harper and tried to explain what was happening. But how do you explain to a 7-month-old baby that someone had created a false version of reality designed to destroy your life? The forensic expert, a man named Dr. Robert Harris, who specialized in deepfake detection, analyzed the video frame by frame. He measured facial landmarks. He tracked pixel patterns. He analyzed lighting inconsistencies and digital artifacts. After 72 hours, he provided his report. This video is definitively artificial intelligence generated using deep learning algorithms. The face has been digitally mapped onto a body double. The audio has been synthesized using voice cloning technology. The subject, Emily Reed, was never physically present in the location shown. But 72 hours was too long. In those 3 days, Emily's life imploded again. The hospital fired her. Administrative leave became termination when they decided they could not handle the public relations nightmare. Even though the video was fake, the association was too toxic. Someone smashed Maggie's boutique windows with a brick. The note attached said, "This is what happens to drug addicts." CPS arrived at Emily's apartment on Friday afternoon. Jennifer Park, the same social worker from before, looking miserable. "Miss Reed, I have to take Harper again, pending investigation resolution." No, you cannot do this again. The video is fake. I have proof. I have seen the forensic report, but the process takes time. My supervisor insists we err on the side of caution. Emily screamed. She screamed and fought and begged, but CPS took Harper anyway. Emily collapsed on her apartment floor after they left. Maggie found her there an hour later, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. I cannot do this anymore. She took everything. My job, my baby, my life. I have nothing left. Maggie sat down beside her sister on the floor. Then we take it back. We fight harder. We do not let them win. How? How do we fight when they keep destroying me with lies? We prove the lies. We find out who did this, and we make sure they pay. Patricia's investigator traced the video to a burner TikTok account. The account had been created 6 days before the video appeared. It had been accessed from public Wi-Fi at multiple locations in West Hollywood. But the payment for creating the deepfake came from a cryptocurrency wallet that had received Bitcoin from an account registered to a shell company. And that shell company had received a wire transfer of $8,000 from Sienna Brooks's personal bank account. She did it, Emily said when she saw the evidence. That woman did this to me. Frank Reynolds, Patricia's investigator, nodded. She paid someone on the dark web to create the video, used your social media photos as source material, then leaked it to destroy your custody case. Why? What does she get from this? She wants Jake, but she wants Jake with money. If you lose custody, Jake's child support obligations decrease substantially. He has more money to spend on her. Emily felt something break inside her. This was not about Harper. This was not even about Jake. This was about money. Sienna was trying to destroy Emily's life over money. Can we prove it? We have a paper trail, but prosecution will be difficult. Deepfake creation isn't illegal in California yet. Distribution with intent to defame is civil, not criminal. We can sue, but that takes years. What about the FBI? Frank looked up. What about them? Deepfake pornography and harassment crosses state lines. That makes it a federal crime, does it not? Frank smiled. You are right, let me make some calls. Patricia contacted the FBI's White-Collar Crimes Division. Agent Maria Torres had been with the FBI for 15 years, specializing in fraud and identity theft. She listened to Emily's story with the calm attention of someone who had heard 1,000 variations of human cruelty. You are right that deepfakes crossing state lines fall under federal jurisdiction, Agent Torres said, but I need you to understand that prosecution is difficult. Most deepfake cases are civil matters, not criminal. What about the fraud? Emily asked. They were sitting in Patricia's conference room. Emily, Patricia, Frank Reynolds, and Agent Torres. Harper was with Maggie, still in CPS custody pending the outcome of this meeting. The fake paternity evidence, the fabricated hotel receipts, the paid witness, that is fraud, is it not? Agent Torres smiled. Now that I can work with. Tell me everything about Sienna Brooks. Frank presented the results of his investigation. Sienna's financial records, her shell companies, her payment to the deepfake artist. But then he presented something else. Something he had been digging into for weeks. Sienna Brooks has done this before, Frank said. I found 3 other men in the past 5 years. All wealthy, all married, all ended up divorced and broke. He pulled up files on his laptop. Robert Martinez, Phoenix, 2019, self-made commercial real estate developer. Met Sienna at a conference, had an affair, wife divorced him, lost half his assets, paid Sienna $50,000 in what he called a consulting fee 6 months later. David Miller, Seattle, 2020, tech startup founder. Met Sienna at an investor meeting, had an affair, wife divorced him, he lost majority control of his company, paid Sienna $75,000 as a settlement for alleged business partnership. Marcus Thompson, Portland, 2021, investment banker. Met Sienna at a charity gala, had an affair, wife divorced him, lost his position at his firm. Paid Sienna $100,000 to avoid her going public with claims of sexual harassment. Agent Torres leaned forward. How much total? Across 7 victims over 5 years, $4.2 million. That is a pattern that is prosecutable fraud. Agent Torres ran Sienna's name through federal databases, warrants in Nevada for fraud, warrants in Arizona for identity theft. She had been operating under the radar for years, moving between states, changing her name slightly, always staying just ahead of prosecution. We have been looking for her, Torres said. Your case gives us jurisdiction and fresh evidence. Are you willing to help us trap her? Emily looked at Patricia. What would that involve? We would need you to be bait, make contact with Sienna, make her think you are desperate enough to pay her off, get her on a record admitting to the fraud. She tried to take my daughter, yes. I will do whatever it takes. They planned the operation carefully. Emily would stage her own surrender on social media. She would post about being done fighting, about wanting peace, about being willing to drop the custody battle in exchange for a financial settlement. Then Emily would post about a fake inheritance, $250,000 from her grandmother, just enough to be tempting. Sienna was at Jake's condo when she saw Emily's posts. Jake had let her move in after he lost the mansion. She told him it was temporary until she found her own place. But weeks had turned into months, and Sienna showed no signs of leaving. Jake was at work managing apartment complexes for minimum wage when Sienna scrolled through Emily's Instagram. Your ex just inherited $250,000. Jake barely looked up from his laptop. Good for her. Maybe she will finally leave me alone. Or maybe she will use it to fight you harder. Hire better lawyers. Drag this out for years. I do not care anymore, Sienna. I am tired of fighting. Sienna felt something cold in her stomach. Jake was losing interest. He was broke, broken, and barely functional. She needed to eliminate Emily completely and then extract what she could from Jake before moving on to her next mark. She texted Emily from a burner phone that night. I have evidence that will destroy your custody case. Photos of you that will make the deepfake look tame. Pay me $150,000 or I release everybody. You have 48 hours. Emily, sitting in Patricia's office with FBI agents listening, read the text, and felt her heart racing. This was it. The trap was working. She texted back, hands shaking. How do I know you will really delete everything? Sienna's response came immediately. You do not, but you cannot risk it. Meet me Thursday, 7 p.m., Balboa Park. Bring cash. Agent Torres smiled. She took the bait. Now we set the trap. Emily would wear a wire. FBI surveillance would record everything. If Sienna confessed to any part of the scheme, they could arrest her on federal charges. Patricia warned Emily one more time. Sienna is dangerous. If she suspects this is a setup, she will not. I am just a desperate mom who will do anything for her kid. That is what she expects to see. That is what I will show her. Meanwhile, Jake was going through Sienna's laptop. She had left it open while she showered, and Jake, suspicious after months of lies, decided to look. What he found made him physically ill. Folders full of other men's names, financial records showing payments to tech experts, templates for fake evidence, contact lists for blackmail victims, draft emails to future marks, and a folder labeled the Carter Protocol, detailing every step of her plan to seduce Jake, destroy his marriage, and extract money before disappearing. Jake was not a mark. He was victim number 7. Sienna came out of the shower to find Jake holding her laptop. What is this? Jake, I can explain. You destroyed Emily on purpose. This was never about us. This was about money. Sienna's face changed. The mask of affection dropped, replaced by cold calculation. Do not be naive. It is always about money. You made me miss my daughter's birth. You turned me into a monster. You destroyed my family, my business, everything. For what? For $4 million spread across a dozen men? 4.2 million. And you were the easiest of all of them. All I had to do was smile and tell you that you were special. Jake felt something break inside him. You are sick. I am realistic. You wanted excitement. I gave it to you. You chose this, Jake. Every step of the way you chose this. She was right. That was the worst part. Sienna had not forced him to betray Emily. She had simply provided the opportunity, and Jake had taken it eagerly. But that did not mean she should get away with destroying other lives. Jake called Emily. He violated the restraining order. He did not care anymore. Jake, you cannot call me. She is planning something. Emily, Sienna is dangerous. She has done this before. 2 other men. She is a con artist. I know. You know how? Thursday. Balboa Park, 7 p.m. Be there. And Jake, bring proof of everything she has done to you. Emily hung up before Jake could respond. On Thursday at 6:47 p.m., Emily arrived at Balboa Park. She wore jeans and a sweatshirt. Her hair was pulled back. She carried a backpack, supposedly full of cash, actually full of cut newspaper. FBI surveillance was in position. Agent Torres was in Emily's ear. We are here. Stay calm. Let her talk. Do not push too hard. Sienna arrived at 7:03 p.m., deliberately late. A power move. She looked like she had stepped out of a magazine. Designer sunglasses, perfect makeup. She smiled at Emily like they were old friends. You look like hell, Emily. Emily stood, gripping the backpack. I brought the money. Give me the evidence. First, let us talk. Sienna sat on a park bench, patting the space beside her. Sit. Emily sat, keeping the backpack in her lap. The wire recorded everything. You know what your problem is? Sienna said conversationally. You thought love was enough. You thought being a good wife, a good mother, would protect you. And you thought money would protect you. Money does protect you. Love is a transaction, Emily. You just did not know you were being sold until it was too late. Emily forced herself to stay calm. Did you ever care about Jake? Even a little? Sienna laughed. Care, honey, I targeted him 6 months before we even met. Read about him in Forbes 40 under 40. Self-made millionaire with assets. Married, which meant easy to manipulate with guilt. Perfect mark. So the affair was business. The deep fake was insurance. And this? Sienna gestured at Emily. This is retirement money. Emily heard Jake's voice behind them. Tell her about the others. Sienna turned. Jake, what are you doing here? Jake emerged from the trees. He looked terrible, unshaven, exhausted but determined. I needed to hear it, all of it. Sienna stood. Jake, she set this up. No, you set all of this up. Emily is just finishing it. Jake pulled out his phone, playing audio he had recorded from Sienna's laptop. Tell her about Robert Martinez in Phoenix. Tell her about David Miller in Seattle. Tell her about the $1.2 million you stole from them. Sienna's face changed. Jake, shut up. I went through everything, your files, your bank accounts, your playbook. You have done this 7 times. You destroy families and steal money, and you probably would have gotten away with it again if you had not been so greedy. Sienna realized too late. This was a trap. She ran. FBI agents emerged from surveillance positions. Agent Torres identified herself. Sienna Brooks, FBI, you are under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, extortion, cyber stalking. Sienna fought. Agents tackled her on the grass. She screamed obscenities at Emily while they cuffed her. You stupid bitch! You ruined everything. Emily stayed calm. No, you did that yourself. Jake handed his laptop to Agent Torres. Everything is on here, all her victims, all her fraudulent accounts, the proof you need. Torres looked at Jake. Mr. Carter, you are also going to need to answer questions about your involvement. I know. I will cooperate with everything. I just needed her to stop hurting people. Emily and Jake made eye contact across the park. For the first time since she left, they were on the same side. I am sorry, Jake said, for all of it. You deserve better. Emily nodded. Yes, I did. Sienna was arraigned the next day. Federal charges, wire fraud, identity theft, extortion, cyber stalking, conspiracy to commit fraud. The FBI connected her to 11 victims across 7 states. Total theft and fraud, $6.8 million. The trial lasted 3 months. Sienna's defense tried to argue entrapment. They claimed she was a victim of Jake's manipulation. They claimed the FBI had coerced her. None of it worked. The evidence was overwhelming. She was found guilty on 47 counts. At sentencing, Judge Patricia Patterson showed no mercy. Miss Blake, you have demonstrated a pattern of predatory behavior spanning years. You have destroyed families, stolen millions, and shown no remorse. You will serve 15 years in federal prison followed by 5 years supervised release. You will pay restitution to all victims. Sienna was led away in handcuffs in an orange jumpsuit. The cameras captured every moment. Emily watched from the gallery, holding Harper. Justice, finally. Jake cooperated fully with the FBI and avoided prosecution for embezzlement in exchange for testimony. But he lost his real estate license due to professional ethics violations. He got a job as a property manager for an apartment complex, making $40,000 per year. He started attending Alcoholics Anonymous after realizing he had been using alcohol to numb his guilt. He went to therapy twice per week to understand how he had become the kind of man who could destroy his own family. He showed up for Harper, every scheduled visit, on time, engaged, learning to be the father his daughter deserved. The final divorce settlement came 18 months after Harper's birth. Emily received full legal and physical custody. Jake received supervised visitation progressing to unsupervised based on his continued sobriety and therapy attendance. Child support, $3,200 per month based on Jake's reduced income. No alimony. Emily did not want it. Jake kept his small condo. Emily received $180,000 from remaining marital assets. It was not the mansion in Pasadena, but it was enough to start over. 3 years after the night Jake found the ring and note, Emily Reed stood in her corner office at Children's Hospital San Diego and looked out over the bay. She had earned this office. Charge nurse, leadership position, $94,000 salary. She had done it, on her own, without Jake's money, without anyone's pity. She had rebuilt her life from ashes. Harper was 3 years old now, a confident, curious toddler who loved books and music and asking endless questions. She split her time between Emily's 2-bedroom apartment and Jake's small house in El Cajon. The custody arrangement worked because both parents made it work. Emily picked up Harper from preschool that Friday afternoon. Harper ran to her, pigtails bouncing, clutching a finger painting. Mama, look what I made. Emily knelt down. Tell me about it. This is you and me and Aunt Maggie. We are at the beach. See the ocean? I love it. We will hang it on the refrigerator when we get home. They drove to Emily's apartment, singing along to the radio, Harper making up words of songs she did not know. Emily felt something she had not felt in years, pure, uncomplicated happiness. That evening, Jake arrived to pick up Harper for his weekend. He looked different these days. Healthier, sober, his eyes were clear. He smiled when Harper ran to him. Daddy, I made you a picture too. Jake scooped her up. Let me see, wow. Is that us at the zoo? Yes, remember the elephants? I remember you said they were squishy. Harper giggled. They were squishy. Jake caught Emily's eye over Harper's head. A moment of shared parenting. A moment that said, we are doing okay. Our daughter is happy. She has been talking about the aquarium all week, Emily said. She wants to see the jellyfish. Jellyfish it is. I will have her back Sunday at 5. Jake? Yeah? Thank you for helping stop Sienna. I know that was hard. Jake's voice was thick with emotion. It was the least I could do. After everything I've touched, He stopped, cleared his throat. You are a good mom, Em. Harper is lucky to have you. Coming from Jake, those words meant something. They meant he understood what he had thrown away, what Emily had built from the ruins he created. Jake drove away with Harper buckled into her car seat, singing a song about jellyfish she had learned at preschool. Emily stood in the driveway of her apartment complex and realized she was crying. Not from sadness, from relief. They had survived. Both of them. Jake had clawed his way back from rock bottom. Emily had built a life that belonged entirely to her. That night, Emily had dinner with friends from work. Adult conversation. Laughter. No discussion of custody or legal battles or past trauma. Just women enjoying each other's company. One friend asked, have you thought about dating again? Emily had not. Dating felt like something people with less baggage did, but maybe enough time had passed. Maybe she was ready. I do not know, maybe. There is a guy in pediatrics who asks about you constantly. Really? Really, Dr. Marcus Bradley, single dad. His ex-wife moved to Colorado, so he has his son full-time. He is kind, funny, and he thinks you are amazing. Emily smiled. Tell him I said hi. On Sunday evening, Jake brought Harper home exactly at 5 p.m. Harper was exhausted from 2 days of adventure, barely able to keep her eyes open. Jake carried her inside and tucked her into bed. Emily stood in the doorway watching him with their daughter. Jake, Emily said softly, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think Harper will forgive you when she is older and understands what happened? Jake was quiet for a long time. I think if I keep showing up, keep being honest, keep choosing her, she will not have to forgive me. She will just know me as the dad who learned to be better. That is a good answer. Jake nodded and left quietly, closing the door behind him. Emily sat in Harper's room for a long time, watching her daughter sleep. She thought about the woman she had been 4 years ago. Pregnant, trusting, willing to make excuses for behavior that should have raised red flags. That woman felt like a stranger now. The woman Emily was today had been forged in betrayal and reborn in survival. She had learned that the strongest love was self-love, that family was not always blood, that forgiveness was possible without reconciliation. That happiness was a choice you made every single day. She chose happiness. She chose herself. She chose to believe that Harper deserved to see a mother who was whole rather than broken. And in making those choices, Emily had discovered a strength she never knew existed. 5 years after finding the ring and note on his pillow, Jake Carter sat in a church basement at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. He was 43 years old, gray, streaking his temples, lines around his eyes. He had been sober for 5 years. My name is Jake, and I am an alcoholic. 5 years sober today. The room applauded. Jake waited for silence. I destroyed my family because I was selfish and insecure. I blamed my wife for my unhappiness when the problem was always me. I had everything. A beautiful wife who loved me, a baby on the way, a successful business. And I threw it all away because I wanted to feel special. He paused. I cannot undo the past, but I can show up today for my daughter, for myself, and maybe that is enough. After the meeting, Jake's sponsor, Tom, walked with him to their cars. You ever stop hating yourself for what you did? Jake considered the question. I do not know if I will ever completely forgive myself, but I am learning that the goal is not self-forgiveness. The goal is doing better, being better. You are doing that, Jake. Jake drove to Emily's house to pick up Harper for their weekend camping trip. Harper was 8 years old now, in third grade, a confident girl who loved books and soccer. She hugged him at the door. Hi, Dad. Ready for camping? Absolutely. You packed everything? Yes, Dad. She rolled her eyes with perfect 8-year-old exasperation. Emily appeared in the doorway with Marcus beside her. They had been married for 3 years. Marcus had been patient, kind, never trying to replace Jake in Harper's life. Have fun camping, Emily said. Harper, remember to actually sleep. Mom, I am 8. Jake and Emily shared a look, the complicated look of two people who had survived a war together. We will have her back Sunday evening, Jake said. Take your time. On the drive to the campground, Harper asked about his meeting. She knew about his sobriety. Emily had been honest about addiction in age-appropriate ways. It was good. I shared about my 5-year anniversary. Are you proud of yourself, Dad? I am proud of the work I have done. I am not proud of the reason I needed to do it. Harper was quiet. Mom told me some of what happened when I was a baby, that you made mistakes that hurt her, that you were not there when I was born, that it took you a long time to become a good dad. All of that is true, but you are a good dad now. You show up. You keep your promises. You are always there when I need you. Jake had to pull over because tears were blurring his vision. Harper unbuckled and hugged him. I love you, Harper. You are the best thing I ever did. I love you too, Dad. They camped that weekend, hiking trails and roasting marshmallows. Harper taught Jake about constellations she was learning in science class. On Sunday morning, they packed up together. Do you ever wish you and Mom were still married? Harper asked. Jake thought carefully. I wish I had been the kind of man your mom deserved. I wish I had made different choices so we could have been a family the way we planned. But I am also glad that your mom found happiness with Marcus. And I am grateful you get to see what a healthy relationship looks like. Yeah, I think so too. They drove back to San Diego. When they arrived, Marcus and Emily were planting flowers in the front yard. Harper ran to show them photos. Jake started to leave, but Emily called him back. Jake, wait. She walked over. They stood in the driveway where 8 years ago, Jake had returned from a night with his mistress to find his life destroyed. Harper told me she asked you about us. I tried to answer honestly without making her feel responsible. I know. You are a good father, Jake. I want you to hear that from me. You made terrible mistakes, but you did the work to become better. Not every man does that. Thank you, Emily. That means more than you know. We are all just doing our best. You, me, Marcus, Harper. We are all just trying to be better than we were yesterday. Jake nodded. I should go. Take care, Jake. He drove away, looking in his rearview mirror at Emily standing in the yard with Marcus and Harper, living the life she had built from ruins. Jake had lost everything. And in losing everything, he had found the one thing that mattered, the ability to be proud of who he was becoming. That evening, Emily tucked Harper into bed. Mom, are you happy? Like really happy? Emily looked at her daughter, her miracle, her reason for being brave enough to leave. Yes, baby, I really am. Are you happy? Yeah, I mean, school is boring sometimes, but yeah, I am happy. Good. That is all I ever wanted. Emily kissed Harper's forehead and turned off the light. She walked downstairs where Marcus was reading. He looked up and smiled. She sat beside him and he put his arm around her. Outside, the San Diego evening was warm and peaceful. Inside, Emily felt the quiet contentment of a life built on honest foundations. No rings on pillows, no goodbye notes, no betrayal hidden behind lies. Just a woman who had survived the worst and built something beautiful from the wreckage. Just a family held together by choice rather than obligation. Emily thought about the woman she had been 8 years ago, pregnant, trusting, willing to make excuses. That woman felt like someone from another lifetime. The woman she was now had been forged in betrayal and reborn in survival. She had learned that the strongest love was self-love, that family was not always blood, that forgiveness was possible without reconciliation, that happiness was a choice made every single day. She had chosen happiness. She had chosen herself. She had chosen to believe that Harper deserved to see a mother who was whole rather than broken. And in making those choices, she had discovered a strength she never knew existed. 20 years after finding the ring and note on his pillow, Jake Carter attended Harper's medical school graduation. He sat in the back of the auditorium at UC San Diego, watching his 33-year-old daughter walk across the stage to receive her medical degree. Dr. Harper Rose Carter, emergency medicine resident. Emily sat in the front row with Marcus. They had been married 18 years. Emily was 54 now, still running her clinic for underserved single mothers. Marcus was 57, a retired teacher who volunteered with at-risk youth. When Harper's name was called, everyone stood and cheered. Emily cried. Marcus cried. Jake cried. After the ceremony, they gathered for photos. Harper in her white coat, diploma in hand, surrounded by her complicated family. Get one with just Harper and her parents, the photographer suggested. Emily and Jake stood on either side of Harper. For a moment, they were a family again. Not the family they had been, but a family nonetheless. Harper put her arms around both of them. Thank you, both of you, for everything. Emily looked at Jake over their daughter's head. 20 years of complicated history passed between them in a glance. At dinner that evening, Harper made a toast. I want to thank my mom for showing me what strength looks like, for teaching me that leaving is sometimes braver than staying, for proving you can rebuild your life from nothing and create something beautiful. Emily's eyes filled with tears. And I want to thank my dad for showing me that people can change, that mistakes do not have to define you forever, that showing up consistently matters more than getting it right the first time. Jake looked away, overwhelmed. And I want to thank Marcus for being the example of what a good man looks like, for loving my mom the way she deserves. She raised her glass. To complicated families and second chances. Everyone drank, everyone cried. Later, Emily stood in her kitchen with Marcus, washing dishes in comfortable routine. Are you okay? Marcus asked. Today was a lot. I am good, really good. I was just thinking about that night 20 years ago. When I left, when I drove to Maggie's with Harper, about to be born, and no idea how we would survive. And look at you now, look at Harper. We made it, Emily smiled. We actually made it. She thought about the journey, the betrayal, the custody battles, the financial hardship, the nights crying, wondering if she had made a terrible mistake. She thought about the slow reconstruction, the nursing job, the apartment, building a life one small victory at a time. She thought about meeting Marcus, learning to trust again, discovering she could love without losing herself. And she thought about Harper, her fierce, brilliant, compassionate daughter who had grown up watching her mother survive. I chose right, Emily said quietly. That night when I left, I chose right. You did. Meanwhile, Jake sat in his car thinking about the past 20 years, the shame of the divorce, the pain of missing Harper's early years, the grinding work of staying sober, but also the pride of watching Harper grow, the gratitude for Emily's willingness to co-parent, the peace that came from knowing he had done the work to change. He thought about the man he used to be, the arrogant developer who thought rules did not apply to him. That man was dead. Jake had killed him slowly over 20 years of therapy and AA meetings. What remained was someone smaller but more real, someone who knew his limitations, someone who understood that showing up was more important than being impressive. It was not the life he had imagined at 38, but it was an honest life. And after 2 decades of lying, honesty felt like redemption. Years later, Emily received a letter from Robert Martinez, one of Sienna's other victims, dying of cancer. He wrote to thank her. Her example of rebuilding after betrayal had inspired him to volunteer at a men's shelter, helping other victims start over. Emily read the letter 3 times. She thought about Sienna Brooks, now working at a gas station, alone and forgotten. Emily felt no satisfaction, just distant sadness for someone who had wasted her life chasing money and ended with nothing. But Emily had something. She had Harper. She had Marcus. She had grandchildren who called her Nana. She had a life built on love and honesty and the quiet knowledge that she had survived. That evening, Emily and Marcus sat on their porch watching the sunset, their ritual. I was thinking about what Harper said at graduation, Emily said, about how leaving is sometimes braver than staying. That was true. I spent years thinking I was weak for leaving, but I was not. I was brave. Marcus put his arm around her. You were the bravest person I have ever known. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set. Emily thought about her journey, the betrayal, the survival, the rebuilding, the love found and lost and found again. She thought about the woman she had been at 34. That woman felt like someone from another lifetime. The woman Emily was now had been forged in fire. She had learned that love without respect was worthless, that forgiveness was for the forgiver, that you could not pour from an empty cup, that the strongest foundation was one you built yourself. She had chosen to leave, to survive, to build rather than destroy, to choose hope over bitterness. And in making those choices day after day, year after year, she had created a life worth living. Not the life she had planned, not the fairy tale ending, but something better, something real, something earned, a life built on her own terms, a life that belonged entirely to her. As the last light faded, Emily closed her eyes and smiled. She had won. Not by destroying her enemy, not by reclaiming her husband, not by becoming rich or powerful. She had won by becoming free. And that, in the end, was the only victory that had ever mattered. After a night with his mistress, Jake found his pregnant wife's ring and a goodbye note on the bed. That note was not an ending, it was a beginning.